I'm going to answer those kids' questions over the nervous system, and I have a couple of diagrams I drew to help my answer. So, question number 1, draw a diagram of a neuron and label the parts and describe how information is transmitted. So, this is the diagram I drew. So here this is the diagram of a neuron. Here is the dendrite. So this is where the whole neural pathway is connected. So they are just basically receiving the signals from other cells. And here, this is the nucleus, neuron nucleus. This is where the genetic information is stored. And around the nucleus, there is a neuron cell body. And those are the Schwann cells. So Schwann cell is where the electrical signals are transmitted across the whole entire neuron body. And this is the myelin sheath, just around the Schwann cell they are just filling the space. And this is node of Ranvier. So this is the pathway that those signals, the electrical signals, just travel from one neuron to another. So, and these are the axon terminal. So here, so dendrite they are just receiving signals from other neurons, then transmit those signals over the axon to the end, and they are just the axon terminal. They are transmitting those informations to other nerve cells. So, quiz number 2, draw a diagram of the brain, label the major lobes, and describe one function of each lobe. So, this is the brain diagram of brain. So this is the frontal lobe, and this is parietal, and this is occipital, and this is the cerebrum, and here the brainstem, and this is temporal lobe. So frontal lobe is responsible for, they are just suppressing the socially inappropriate behavior or inappropriate action. So they are just letting us make a right decision between good and bad. And the parietal lobe is a kind of math center. So they just help us recognize all the numbers and space, the shapes and objects, and all those make us be able to process all those the numeric things. And this is occipital lobe, and they are mainly processing the visual information. And here is cerebrum. So cerebrum is the largest portion of our brain. It doesn't really seem very large, but it is the largest, and they control the balance and the motor skills. And here is a brainstem. It plays very important role in automatic body functions, like breathing or heartbeat, such things. And this is the temporal lobe, and they are important in recognizing those objects or some visual memory, as well as they also help us perceiving those sounds as well. So quiz number 3, explain how neurotransmitters work as synapse. So the communication between two neurons that happens in the synaptic cleft, this is the gap between those two neurons. So neurotransmitters are kind of chemicals that carry out the synaptic transmissions. So for those signals, the impulse to continue from one neuron to another, so they need this neurotransmitter cross the synapse like as a form of chemicals to close the gap to synaptic cleft. And quiz number 4, what is a neuromuscular junction? So neuromuscular junction is a very specialized synapse formed in between a very end of a motor neuron and a muscle fiber. So this is where the signals travels and reach the muscle fiber. And when those signal action potential travels through the neuron and reaches the neuromuscular junction, then it triggers the chemical reactions and leads to muscle reorganizing and make them shorten. Making them shorten the muscles. It will be the muscle contraction. Quiz number 5. Describe the process of the reflex arc, including afferent and efferent neurons. So this reflex arc system is a very simple model of reflex response. So it starts with our receptor, like a sensor here. For example, like a fingertips, we are sensing the heat, candles or some heat, and the sensory signal will just be traveling through the sensory nerves. So the afferent neuron, they carry those information to the spinal cord, like a central nervous system, and eventually it will get to the brain, the control center, so where they will process the information, what's going on, and they will decide how to respond. So then they will just send out the signals out through the motor efferent neuron. So the nerve impulses travel out to muscles, passing the signal outward that stimulate the response to move the muscle. We will just respond like that. And page number 6, compare and contrast the autonomic and somatic nervous system. So somatic nervous system controls over our voluntary muscles, like the skeletal muscles, and autonomic nervous system controls our involuntary muscles, like the cardiac and smooth muscles. They both have motor neuron pathways, but while somatic nervous system has both sensory and motor pathways, but autonomic nervous system has only the motor pathway. And quiz number 7. How does Alzheimer's disease influence the nervous system? So Alzheimer's disease affects our central nervous system by degrading the neurons in the brain, and those neurons cannot be replaced, and eventually it results in the memory loss. And it has been studied that patients with this Alzheimer's disease developed higher amount of proteins, like plaques, the abnormal protein buildup between those nerve cells. So they assume those will affect how the Alzheimer's disease develops in the body.